Let me tell you my story. My name is SamJak. I'm a father of 3, husband to a beautiful, young, energetic wife. And for years, I felt trapped. Trapped in a job that paid well but drained my soul. And now, just 9 months later, I've earned over $80,000 in net profit. Not from gambling, but from a system. One that's changing lives and building a movement we now call the Sportsbook economy. I spent years climbing the corporate ladder, IT architect for company giants like Walmart, Microsoft, US Bank, Panasonic, Jazz Pharmaceutical, and AARP, to name a few. I was making over $200K a year. On paper, I had it all. But in reality, I was drowning in debt. I was exhausted, burnt out, underappreciated. I gave these companies millions of dollars in value. And what I got in return was stress, depression, and the crushing feeling that no matter how hard I worked, I was stuck in the rat race. I hustled harder. I took on DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon delivery, crypto, trading. Anything you can think of, you name it. Trading my nights and weekends for a few extra bucks, while missing precious moments with my kids. I realized something had to change. My time was worth more than $15 an hour. I didn't want to be another overworked dad with nothing left in the tank. I was looking for a way out, and then I found it. I joined a program that cost $10,000 through Major League Profits. It was supposed to be about sports cars, but buried inside was a module on something I've never heard of, Sportsbook Arbitrage. Despite being a lifelong sports fan, I had never seen odds this way. Not as gambling, but as math, as leverage. My coach at the time, Chad Gracie, now my business partner, he opened my eyes. I realized this wasn't a side hustle. It was an economy. I started back in October 2024 with a $2,500 bankroll in Michigan. NBA season promos were hot, and within 4 weeks, I made $12,500 in profit. Within 6 weeks, I've made over $18,000. I was blown away. I poured everything into mastering the system. I discovered bonus conversions, global books, and eventually the profit loop. A repeatable process to legally extract profit every week from sportsbooks with zero risk if you follow the system. Over the next 9 months, I stacked over $80,000 in profit, averaging under 30 minutes a day. I paid off over $40,000 in debt. I funded my son's adoption to the family. I set up a college fund for my daughter. I took my family on multiple vacations. I threw my wife a kick-ass 30th birthday party. Paid entirely with sportsbook profit. And most importantly, I started to breathe again. I got my time back, got my confidence, started getting my freedom. I knew this couldn't just be my story. I invested in high-level marketing and coaching. I learned how to grow on social media. I went from 0 followers to over 200,000 followers and over 200 million plus impressions. That's when I launched Arb Samurai. And today, that has evolved in something bigger. The Sportsbook economy. A movement, a brand, a revolution. Built alongside Chad Gracie, the original architect of the Profit Loop, and my business partner, Elijah Casey, a marketing genius with access to millions across the internet. Now, before I go any further, let me tell you and show you how this actually works, so you can see that it's not just talk. This here is my Odds Jam dashboard. Right now, I'm scanning for arbitrage opportunities, which just means we're pinning 2 different sports books against each other. Right here, I see a guaranteed profit on this game. If I bet $100 on one side and $100 on the other side, no matter what happens in this particular game, I will profit $2.70. Now that might not sound like a lot to you, but these stack all day long, dozens of them. And when you layer in bonus money, risk-free bets, reloads, and a rollover strategy, you start seeing $100, $300, $500, even $1,000 days. In fact, here's an example. I just secured a $2,500 bonus from FanDuel and a $400 bonus from Bookmaker, both of which I've converted into real cash using this system and the OddsJam tool. This isn't gambling. This is a repeatable playbook, and that's what we teach inside the Sportsbook Academy. We now help everyday people, dads, students, retirees, moms, grandparents, everyone, turn a few $100s into $2,000 to $10,000 per month. We teach the elite how to build a consulting business around this system. We offer funding, community, coaching. We give you the tools, playbooks, and the support to win at your own pace from anywhere in the world. And it starts at just $27. If you're stuck, if you're burnt out, and if you're like I was, grinding endlessly with nothing left to show, then this isn't just another program. It's your way out. This is the Sportsbook Economy, built on leverage, fueled by math, and designed to give you your time and life back. DM me Economy or click the link below and I'll show you how to get started. Hey everybody, welcome. It's SamJak here with Sportsbook Economy, joined by my co-host, Chad Gracie. Hello, Chad. How are you doing today?
Hey Sam, good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Just really excited about, just the upcoming weekend with NFL football, college football, week 3 in the NFL. Really excited about the things that are going on inside of the Sportsbook Economy, the results that our students are seeing, and so forth. So, any big plans this weekend, big guy?
For me, no, just got a kids' soccer game tomorrow, and then not too much, which is kind of ironic having kids. Yeah, play outside, do some betting, I guess, and yeah. Other than that, pre-relax is rare, so yeah, not much.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just change this layout here so we can see each other better, and remove this source. There we go. All right. So we're really excited. So guys, we're inside of the sportsbook economy. What we're doing is changing lives on a daily basis, right? So for those of you that kind of watched the intro video, I won't go into the full story deeply, but 10 months ago, I met this guy over here, Chad Gracie. Chad has been teaching sportsbook arbitrage bonus conversions, right, for a good amount of years. He's been fine tuning the system for about 20 years and teaching it to over 1,000 students in the last couple of years. And his students have combined to make over $20 million in the last few years. So, impacting a lot of people's lives. So we appreciate that. So, anyways, I met with Chad in October, completely green to odds and lines and all this bonus conversion stuff. But I listened to the guy, right, and it started to make sense, and hit the ground running, right, and took a $2,500 bankroll, increased it to 12,500, made about 11,000 in profit or so, and within 33 days. And I've just been consistently doing that month after month after month for the last 10, 11 months. And now I'm up to like $95,000, right? So, but I'm not the only one. We just spoke to Roberto in our last podcast on Monday, right? Roberto just got recently inducted into the 100K club. And he's not only made 100K, he's stormed past it and has made $122,000. Doing this in just under a year. I think he said his year anniversary is coming up in a couple of days. Working side by side with Chad, in our VIP Accelerator program, and just seeing a lot of success there. Yeah. So, Chad, real quick for the audience, what made you come up with the bonus conversion process? How did it develop? How did you piece it together? What are the little challenges that you had along the way and so forth?
Yeah. So, um, I developed this kind of when I started playing, just betting on sports 20 years ago. I was 18 years old. Um, I casual bet, played poker and stuff, but these sites would always give you, bonuses, right? And
Yeah.
when they gave you, like a Bettis would give you a bonus. And back then the rollovers weren't as high as they are now, but it's like, okay, cool. I'll play some wagers, have some fun. And with free play, like I'm thinking I can beat the books, right? And then sure you'll win some bets, but they have what they call as a playthrough requirement, and everybody knows what that is if you're in the program. But basically, if you put $300 in a sports book, they give you $300 in free play, and then they may have, we'll call it a 10x rollover. So 300 plus 300, 600 times 10, $6,000. So you have to play through $6,000 in action before you can cash out. So just like anyone, I did that a million times, win some, lose some, but then I realized like, oh, there's other sports books that also offer bonuses, right? And I'm like, let me pull my Excel spreadsheet, and see what's going on. And like, you can basically just, back then I didn't know what I know now, but just bet and just, hope one side wins or one side lose, and just kind of wake up next day. Okay, I move money here, have a low rollover, right? So literally is like, what if I took advantage of all these books, right? A very easy scenario is like when Alex went live, what was that, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago? Don't you remember? But it's like, wow, you're betting all these books and all these odds, so it's easy to find arbitrage opportunities, right? The concept there.
Mhm.
So that's why I was going through like, okay, if I just keep betting these sports books against each other and using, like back in the day, you look at magazines or online to find these odds and try to find something that was, a 10-cent different, like a plus 100 versus a 110. And
Mhm.
I said back then the rollovers were a lot lower, but you could just place wagers, take the Yankees in one sports book and Indians in the other, and don't really care wins or loses, right? So basically, you'd pull these sports books and just kind of go over and over and over again. So that's how I got started, right? Just learning. Basically, there was an edge there from just doing a casual bet. I'm not looking at lines or necessarily. It's just more like, hey, who's going to give me a promotion? How do I take advantage of it? Like I'm going to the casino to count cards, basically. You could think of it that way. So,
Okay.
but then, had opportunity to coach people with this to help, drive some traffic and increase a business for another person. And basically took it and ran, like working one-on-one with people, like, wow, this book does this book does that. So I got really involved in that aspect and just knowing the different personalities of this and kind of, just saying, wow, people pay a lot of money to learn nothing. Why don't I teach something that's easy and fun and can make, substantial money? Won't make you a millionaire, but definitely will pay the bills for sure. So that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, and as far as when once this became legalized in the United States sports books back in 2018, and also at the same time, kind of getting tools like OddsJam and others in the market that have basically pull the odds together for you and does the math that we teach, but the tools help enhance that quicker and so forth.
Mhm.
How did that kind of change things, not only for yourself, but when that started happening in 2018, 2019, 2020? Were you teaching people at that point, or you just these tools made it easier for you to do so?
Yeah. So I taught my friends, a few people, just like, hey, you guys want to do this? And you know, when you're doing just blind bets and kind of doing manual math, it's grinding, right? So for me, it
Mhm.
would take a few hours to kind of figure all it out. But when OddsJam came out, that concept clicked. So basically, I was saying, okay, I can take bonuses here. At the time OddsJam came out, they didn't have as many global books as we use now. So it was pick and choose. But once I realized, just like every other person, I already used up all my DraftKings accounts and everything when it came out because, I didn't, like those became legalized in Michigan first and then OddsJam came. So,
Mhm.
but I realized like, holy cow, if I ever had the opportunity to teach someone, I could, right? And never even thought about doing that until we met and I was coaching it and doing that inside the program. Like this is super easy. Using OddsJam for something a little bit different, like arbitrage is known, or OddsJam is known for EV and arbitrage. And my main
Mhm.
focus was that low hold page. So that was the bread and butter for the sauce of what we kind of teach. It's like, hey, this is the tool we use versus anything else. So just developed a really good process to teach people that never bet on sports before in their life how to actually bet on sports and make money. And some people will continue the bonus avenue, and some people wanted to branch out in ARB and EV, right? So just introduce them to betting, but making a risk-free profit, we'll call it, is always nice and is easier to teach than hey, go stomach some losses, right? So that's kind of how it all started, and had the ability to make some significant money to help these students pay back the program they purchased, and that's kind of how it all started, and why we're here today. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then you were basically doing that for a couple of years with another company, being the director of customer success. Individuals coming in for trying to learn how to flip sports cards and so forth, but people were looking to get a return on their investment. Some customers, my understanding, myself included, pay upwards to $11,000 to learn the sports cards flipping. But sports card flipping, although fun, although it is asset, related in the sense that you have assets, right, and so forth. But takes time, right? So it takes time to turn it around, to get the market to catch up to a point where you're getting a pretty solid ROI. And that's kind of what you were doing, right? Coming into this program, also. Um, also learning about sports cards, but you know, building a relationship with the team there, and pitching this idea, right, and giving customers another avenue to make their money back very quickly, right? So, what did that look like once you started doing that and coaching that
yeah,
in this program? What did it start looking like from the customer standpoint, and
yeah,
and so forth?
yeah, good question. um Nervous for sure, because you can imagine these people pay a lot of money and trusting me to teach them how to bet, right? So
Mhm.
in my head, just being a degenerate gambler, say, okay, how can I really teach these? Like in a fashion that, I don't know these people, they never bet. Like I have friends who worked really closely. So, first process was training a guy named Mo at the program, and he made significant money his first month going through the bonuses and going through that. And the owner says, yeah, let's roll this in the program, right? So it was really cool because as anybody that has used OddsJam, if you haven't signed up for a sports book, you can make an easy $1 to $2 grand, right? You could make more or less, but that's an average number that, to some people, you teach them how to bet and make a guaranteed profit, because that is exactly what we're doing. It's insane how much more they're in tune to learn, right? So then they would catch on and say, okay, what else we got to do? But that was the easiest money ever. So just that was the piece of cake part. And then we go global. It was the ones who were coming in and just had the international books. It's like, this is a different roadmap, right? I got to go back to the old strategies. I got to, figure out, okay, what is the best roadmap? Because they had to pay back $3 grand in the program. So it's kind of like some of these people coming into the program, like, I got to make $3 grand. I have $500 to start with. I'm like, whew, all right, let's do it. Right. So it was a learning curve for sure. There's no right or wrong way to do what we do, but there's if you ever talk to me, you want to get really technical. Like I was trying to learn, like, what is the best way to do what we teach, but also maximize your time, money, and everything. Right. So, bringing on different personalities and different people and different bankroll sizes, it was an awesome learning curve because, basically we would all do the same thing, but we just have a different roadmap, right? So learned, the ins and outs of sports books, learn limits, learn what to bet, even what time to bet. Like some people say, yeah, I just placed a bet at 2 in the morning on Korean baseball, $500 each on the mains. I'm like, you don't want to do that, dude. Like, we want to stick to main sports. So the point is, that's what we're, account health and everything, limits. That was the key driver to how I know I could maybe make this successful, because I used OddsJam, I burned through stuff, and, just limits is a factor, right? When you're arbitrage betting in the grind aspect. So what I was teaching these 9 to 5ers was not to grind, just to, 20, 30 minutes a day and go. And, we started getting all these Hall of Fame calls posted on the website, and everything started growing really good. So that's kind of how it all started and evolved. Yep. From that aspect.
Yeah, that's great. And I got a couple of follow-up questions. So you say 20 to 30 minutes. For those of you, that are coming from like the OddsJam world, sportsbook arbitrage, you hear that. You hear that on X. You can make all this, money on arbitrage, 20 to 30 minutes, this and that. It's one of the things that kind of got me into arbitrage as well. Just following other personalities, odds gym, and so forth in that 20 to 30 minutes. But what would you say, first of all, before we talk about the 20 to 30 minutes that you say it takes to do the bonus conversions? What would you say about about arbitrage taking 20 to 30 minutes a day?
Yeah. I didn't arbitrage too heavily. So like arbitrage is really good. But for me personally, like I like to just bet main markets. So lines don't move much. There's not much of a grind. And I was you gotta think I was a casual bettor my whole life. So the point is, taking those bonuses and just kind of understanding that loophole, like that stuck with me. And then when Odds Jam came out, sure I tried arbitrage betting and everything, but um I would say the difference just between that is you're not really grinding too much to, like, for me with arbitrage betting. I think for me to make $2,000 or $3,000 a month, I need a bigger bankroll. This is just my thoughts. I'm never definitely not right. I'm not the best arbiter, but if I had $10,000 and I could put $1,000 in 10 books, I have more opportunities, so it's less of a grind, right? Versus someone starting out that's never bet on sports before, you're not going to start with 10 grand, maybe a couple grand or $500. So you put those in like the 3 or 4 specific books that may have the best arbs and build the bankroll, right? So I could have used that roadmap to train these students how to make money. But number one, it's way too hard because those lines move. So you have to understand, like, hey, if I place an arb here and this prop bet's gone, what do I do, right? You lose money. Most arbors may, or you got to be quick enough to find hedges. But being new and training people never bet before, for anybody that's arbitrage bet, we've all been there, right? It happens. So that was probably the different, thought is like these main market lines don't move much. If my plus 110, that's an EV or an ARB, goes to plus 105, I go from losing $1 to maybe like $1.25. I don't care. It does nothing for what we're doing. So that's the less grind portion. And literally it's just logging in and placing wagers, right? So it is a different learning curve. But it's a lot less of a grind because there's less mistakes to be had. Lines aren't going to be pulled as much. And also, you're not always trying to find those 2 sports books, sit there waiting for an arbitrage, like a live bet, right? So that's why I'm saying there's always mains to be bet on in a way. So it's just, you can, log in, place your wagers, log out. You're looking like a casual bettor, and, just let Mother Nature take its course with the bets. Wake up next day, see what happens. So,
Yeah. And Chad, for those of us on watching the podcast at some point, we're talking about arbitrage. I don't know what arbitrage, I know, but say the person that knows what arbitrage isn't. What is arbitrage? How would you explain it to a person that either, like myself 10 months ago, right, came in and was a casual sports bettor, but knew nothing about sportsbook arbitrage, or someone that's never bet at all? How would you explain sportsbook arbitrage to them?
yeah. So what arbitrage is? It's like, it's almost like purchasing an item on sale at Target, and you already have it sold on eBay at full retail price. A buyer lined up, right? So I buy some for $20, I sold for 30, I made $10, right? Risk-free profit, we'll call it, guaranteed money. That's essentially what arbitrage in the sports book is. For example, DraftKings may have a line at plus 140, and FanDuel may have a line at whatever, minus 130, right? The plus odds are higher than negative odds. So therefore, I don't know the exact math, but you place a bet on each side, there's a calculate, hey, you're going to make $1.25, right? So that's exactly how I relate that to a sports book. There's inefficiencies in the market where one sports book has a price jacked up and like it's out of sync. And that's the beautiful thing about sports betting. There's no limitations. Anybody can set their own price. So as an arbitrage bettor, you're looking for that target price that's on sale, and I already have that buyer lined up on eBay. It's like, I'm going to go over here, place a wager in book A. I'm going to place a wager in book B. I'm guaranteed to make a profit regardless of the outcome. So that's what my explanation of arbitrage betting is.
Right. And as far as the individuals that, okay, I thought sports books is just like the Lakers versus the Celtics. I think the Lakers are going to win versus the Celtics. What is all this stuff? Well, what is all this stuff you're talking about, Chad, with prices and lines? Well, how does that play into the Lakers versus the Celtics?
Yeah, good question. So if the Lakers were in a site like DraftKings at a minus 110, right? Let's say let's use different. Let's say Lakers were minus 200, but let's say FanDuel had them at a minus 150. That's a 50-cent difference. So that's pretty good value. Just saying, hey, if I bet $100 on that minus 200 line, I'm going to win what, $50, right? Is what I win. If I bet $100 on a minus 150 line, I would win 75 maybe. I don't know the exact math, but the point is it's the same outcome, but I can make more money. So if you have 20 different sports books and one is offering the best price where you put $10 in, you can make $15. That's exactly what you're looking for. Different markets have different prices. These sports books aren't regulated to that standpoint. If I buy the price, if I go to buy Amazon stock, I'm not going to get a discount on it, right? I'm paying $160 or 200 or whatever it is. Here, these sports books have different prices. So therefore, when you're EV betting or expected value, you're looking for a price that's so like jacked up, right? But not to some extent. Don't take the wrong way. There is pricing errors and stuff, but you're just looking for an inefficiency in the market to take advantage of it, right? Because it's the same outcome. A bet's got to win or a bet's got to lose. So that's exactly what in terms of your Lakers example you would look at.
Okay. So basically with these sports books, they're independently operated, right? And in the United States, you have anywhere from 15 to 25 different sports books. Actually, more than that. Some states are very specific regional sports books. So think of these sports books as like individual independent companies, and they set their own prices, just like you're going to Walmart versus Amazon versus Kroger's for those in the Midwest and stuff like that, right? So you got different prices. Now, the sports books, the prices, you would think that, okay, if I'm a regular person, don't understand anything about odds, I go to a sports book and I think the Lakers are going to win. If I give them $100 for the Lakers to win, well, the sports books put these prices or odds that are called in the industry that determine how much money you're actually going to get. So you don't actually, for the most part, put $100 and get $100 back if the Lakers win. There's a price, an odd associated with it that determines how much you're going to get, right? So if it's like minus 110, which is a standard odd for a pretty much like a 50-50 type game, you put $100, you're going to get like whatever the math works out to, $90 or something like that, right? So you're going to play this edge, this vig that's called in the industry that goes to the sports books, and that's how they make money over the long run, right? So they adjust these prices and odds, right, Chad? Is that right?
Yep, exactly right. Yep.
Okay, and so from there, because the sports books are different organizations, they set these prices and odds differently. Sometimes they set it based on just trying to lure customers in, right, with a better price. Other times they set it just because they're not maybe as efficient as some other books in terms of uh, moving those lines and adjusting the prices based on market movement, right? So we're not really focused on the Lakers versus the Celtics. We're focused on the math. We're focused on the price, right? So when we take a look, and so tools and teaching that we teach is like kind of like stock trading, right, Chad? And so we look at the prices, and when we have the discrepancy that you're talking about, tools like OddsJam tell us, hey, if you place a bet here at this amount, you place a bet here at that amount, that's going to be the difference in the difference is going to be the profit that you actually make, despite who wins that game, whether it's the Lakers or the Celtics, right? So if the Lakers win, you're going to get a certain amount. If the Celtics win, you get a certain amount. Now you can place these wagers before the game starts, knowing exactly what you're going to win, going before the game even starts. You can place these wagers during the game as well, right? And knowing what you're going to win before the game even ends, right? So those are the kind of the two scenarios. Now, that's sportsbook arbitrage. And as Chad said, you do this with a high volume. You have access to multiple sports books. Therefore, you have access to multiple price points and lines. Gives you the opportunity to find more discrepancies to get these profits. But generally speaking, these profits are anywhere from 0% or 0.1% all the way up to 7, 8, 9%, sometimes more, right? So if you put $100 bet at two different books, $200, 7% is going to give you about a $14 profit, right? So that's one of the things with arbitrage, but it's more of a grind, as I was trying to say earlier, in the sense that you got to put a lot of volume down, or you got to have a big big bankroll in order to, where, 14% or 7% of 1,000 is significantly more money than 7% of 100, for example. But because of that, we actually do something, a subset of sportsbook arbitrage with bonus conversions, and our percentages look closer to 50 to 70% in terms of the profit that you're making. So, Chad, talk a little bit about our process in the sportsbook bonus conversion, which is a subset of arbitrage in the sense that we are still placing a bet on both sides of a game at two different books, but leveraging promos.
Yeah, yeah. So to Sam's point, sports books offer promotions, right? You may have seen a DraftKings bet $5 and get $200 in free bets, right? So they're enticing you to come to their casinos. And what we do is we're enticed by all of the sports book promos because that's what we're doing. We're going to have an edge on them because we're just taking a promotion and we are placing a bunch of bets, which may be the Lakers versus the Mavericks, but we don't really care about that price, to get that arbitrage opportunity because we're making money. So, for example, if you were to put $2,000 across various sports books, and let's say you got $2,000 in free play, and let's say you converted that and made $1,200 cash, right? So we made money, right? And now these sports books, when you put money into them, you have to place wagers to get through what they call as play-through requirements, right? And what we teach is how to kind of avoid some of that if possible, especially in the VIP program. Just because I have worked with so many people that you can kind of play chess with these sports books. So if you're a stock trader that's never bet before, you'd probably pick up this strategy so much easier than maybe like an EV better, just thinking analogy wise, because the fact that we're just continually trading sports bets is all we're doing. And since we can't control those outcomes, it's like every day, wake up the next day, you're going to have different balances. And some sports books, if you lose your money, they're going to give you a reload bonus, right? So let's say you lose $500 out, and maybe it went to DraftKings, right? You didn't actually lose your $500. You just placed bets to win in some books, right? So essentially, we're using house money to bet against and get through these playthrough requirements where you may lose a little bit because of the VIGs to Sam point, where we're betting like a minus 105 and a plus 100 odd, where in that case, you'd probably lose a few dollars, $3 or $4, depending on the bet size. But in reality, you really don't care, right? So essentially, it's like, hey, do you want to make 40% of every time you invest in the sportsbook on your money? And I hope the answer is yes, because there's no other way you can invest that. So it's like thinking bigger picture that way. And that's really like, yeah, you can go out there and place wagers and get through the playthrough requirements. That's kind of how you learn. But we really want to teach you how to deep dive and really look like a casual bettor, but also really look like, you're playing chess. Your every move. And that's the beautiful thing about this. Every time you place that wager, if a bet's going to win, if it's going to lose, it's either going to go one book or the other, right? And every book has its personality. So that's kind of what you're getting at Sportsbook Economy, is just an easy way to have fun in the introduction of sports betting. But even if you don't care about sports or nothing, making a simple extra side hustle of money by doing these strategies, right? So anybody's talk to me, I can just say, go play some low hold bets and get through the playthrough requirements and cash out. Or I can be as detailed as that person wants to listen to me to play that chess move, which is the key feature. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And so I mean, just to give you, thank you for that information, Chad. So what we're doing at the Sportsbook Economy, we have communities, right, that teach this. We have Academy that teaches all of this, and our students are doing well. We have over 300 300 people inside of our communities. So we'll continually grow fast. We just launched on August 1st, so we're going to continue to grow fast. And we're seeing a lot of students with results, and we see students making upwards of $9,000 in a week. In some cases, making upwards of 27,000 in a month. I originally started doing this, and I'm still making $9,000 to $10,000 a month after 10, 11 months of doing this. But what I really what really warms my heart is just seeing the stories out there from people from all walks of life doing well. People with large bankrolls, people with small bankrolls. We have people with bankrolls of $500. We have people with bankrolls of over $100,000. Right. So all walks of life, just learning the system, growing, getting additional. For some people, additional side income. For some people, replacement income. Some people are envisioning that this will, allow them to retire or support their retirement goals, or support their, leaving the 9 to 5 so that they can do something for 30 to 45 minutes a day, or whatever the reason your why is. And if you're looking for, a way to help with, the financial challenges of the world today, right? Not be beholden so much to having to decide and look at your bank account and whether you can do someone. I just got randomly messaged last night by one of our students, and he's just like, "Hey, I just wanted to, provide feedback that he's doing well, made $5,000, or is on track for $5,000 in his first month in our program. He, his wife, and his family are in Cancun right now, enjoying what they showed me was beautiful food and beautiful weather, and that was paid through his sportsbook arbitrage methods and this sportsbook bonus conversion. So these are the kind of things that make real life impact. So we're really excited about that. We have Roberto, who came on right Monday. Chad talked about making over $100,000, paying off a large, paying off all of his mortgage bills this year, without touching his payroll. He's a excuse me, he's a firefighter in the firefighter service in the Florida area, and he's been able to do that. And in addition to that, just impact his family, fly in his son who's in the military for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and be able to cover that and some other things in life, and just pay his escrow bill and things like that for the home. So really, really good stuff that's happening in here. So we have over 300 people. What I'm going to do is put a QR code up here, guys. If you're interested in joining our free community, just scan the QR code, and it's going to be above me. Scan that QR code, okay? Or head out to the website, which I'll give you in the ticker here. um, just like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube. We'll be on Mondays and Fridays from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And we'll be talking about bonus conversions, but we're also going to be talking a lot about sports industry, and we're going to dive into that topic in a moment. But follow us on Twitter at Sportsbook Economy, on Instagram, right? We're also on TikTok and LinkedIn, and just like and subscribe. And you can go to sportsbookeconomy.com/join community, or scan the QR code above me. That will get you into our free school community where you can, talk to other like-minded individuals that are looking to understand the process, that are students that are doing well with it, that are in the program, and so forth. And also join our weekly master class that we have for the community. So, absolutely. Um, all right, kind of shifting topics here, real quick. We're going to kind of talk about some industry news. One of the things we want to talk about is just the market in itself. Um, and basically, so let me make sure that I have the information that I wanted. So, sportsbook betting, right, has been legalized back in 2018 in the United States, right, guys? And in the, it's been expanding. So it's still a very relatively new industry inside of the United States. Right now, there's 38 states plus the District of Columbia that legalized sportsbook. Big industry. It's $149 billion industry in the United States. Internationally, it's an additional $530 billion industry. Right, tax revenue has been unbelievable. States are making $1 to $2 billion, closer to $2 billion in tax revenue every year. The New York state of New York is themselves have collected well over $2 billion. since launch. Um, and then there's the California and Texas, right? So these are the ones that are the big ones that are not legalized sports betting yet. And when they do, officials are estimating that there's going to be $8 to $10 billion in combined annual handling if the sports eventually get to legalized. And we just imagine that it will be. Chad, what do you think about the market of sports books and markets like California, Texas, and Florida, and so forth?
Yeah, they're I mean, massive amounts of people, right? Missouri's going live here at the end December 1st, I think, with
Mhm.
DraftKings. At least I saw a post, and there's a lot of tax benefits, right? And I don't know why more states don't go live because of that, right? Tax revenue. I'm assuming there's probably some politics with gambling, bringing that into a state as well. I'm sure there's that, but it's insane to see those numbers and just how much money those companies make, whether it's from casino or sports betting. But there's a lot of money right there, so it's a lot of eyes on that, and it'll be interesting to see in the next 10 years how many states convert. Like you said, 38 plus District of Columbia, so Missouri give us 39. I'm curious, if other states will convert or why they haven't yet, but Texas, California, Florida, like you said, those are some big ones too. So if those convert, then it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know what their thoughts are. I always wonder, would it be like a fly in the wall talking with legislation on those things? Like, yeah, it'll get revenue or it'll bring more gambling and stuff like that. So, but there's people in those states using global books as well. So it's not like they don't gamble. So that's where I'm wondering, and especially if it's a tax benefit. So really interesting. I always listen to those topics just because there's a lot of money there for sure.
Yeah, and some of the states definitely have to deal with challenges like domicility with Indian tribes and so forth. Florida,
Mhm.
pretty much, there's an Indian tribe in Florida that was basically able to put into law that Hard Rock Cafe through them would be like the only one, or Hard Rock Casino would be the only one that would be able to operate inside of uh, Florida, right? And so that's why that Florida only has that one, and there could be the same type of challenges in other states. I know there's a little bit of the challenges here in Michigan where we are, because there's um, quite a few Indian tribes that had casinos, right, and already had uh, deals in place in terms of casino action and so forth. But they
Mhm.
were able to resolve it here in Michigan, and large corporation partners like FanDuel and DraftKings and others were able to partner with the local tribes here, right? And basically, if you ever notice using a tool like OddsJam, if you go to a specific state, or even not even using a tool like OddsJam, but if you go to FanDuel in any different states, you may notice a different casino listed next to FanDuel. And that's basically the states that have Indian tribes that
Mhm.
run these casinos and so forth. So if you're here in Michigan, you're going to see Motor City Casino, right? If I'm not mistaken, you'll
Yep.
see Motor City Casino, but it's owned by and operated by an Indian tribe. You go into another state. I don't really pay attention to the other states. Maybe Chad in Ohio or something. It'll be a different casino that's tied in with FanDuel, right? So little nuances like that in the industry, right, that you'll see. So you're actually placing a bet to a different casino in these different states and so forth. So it's not like necessarily FanDuel that's taking the action per se. It's the local casinos, right?
Yep.
So very
Exactly.
complicated topic, um, but a lot of money to be out there. I mean, just looking here in this year to date, New York has handled $75 billion in bets this year, right? Made almost $7 billion in revenue, right? And very high tax rate there at $3.5 billion in taxes for the citizens of New York. Some of the other ones that kind of round out the top five. Got New Jersey with $66 million handle. $5.2 billion in revenue. Illinois with $52 billion handle with $4.4 billion in revenue. Nevada is 50 billion, right, with almost 3 billion revenue. So these are right around 50 billion with three billion in revenue. So their revenue is coming from that, those price differences that we talked about, those edges, right, those VIGs odds, and so they're getting about 3 million on 50, 4 million on 50. That's 4 to 8%, right? Per every dollar that comes in. Um, and it's pretty much how, that's kind of how positive EV works, where you get your own edge built into the system, where over time you get a 4 to 8% edge, right? Um, and so the issue is with positive EV, you need a big bankroll to be able to handle the ebbs and flows. And of course, the casinos have the biggest bankrolls, right? They have $1 billion bankrolls and are able to handle these ebbs and flows when inevitably they lose at times as well, right? When the action gets too one-sided and so forth, and that line wins. But over the grand scheme of things, you can see by the numbers, Pennsylvania rounding out the top five with $40 billion handled and $3.5 billion in revenue. That's an 8.6% you know uh, ROI. So yeah, massive, massive industry. All right. So what else is going on out there? So interesting enough, 80 to 90% of bets are mobile, right? So most of the bets that are being placed in the industry are on mobile apps, right? And geolocations enables these appliances. What about you, Chad? Are you more of a mobile guy, a computer guy? What do you? How do you do that?
Oh man, if I'm placing computer for sure. I have like I have monitors. I cannot pull up my phone. I can use a phone for a website, but you know, I see some setups where people have like 15 cell phones set up, and it's like I rather have a monitor and like 10 different monitors. I think I saw Arbitrage had the screen thing, which is really awesome. Like I think if you're going to treat it as if you're going to treat it as a job, invest in two monitors for $100 each because number one, you can make that no problem. But
Mhm.
I do use my phone a lot. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of that, like I think the 85% is probably casual bettors, but I mean, I'm a big believer to just use the monitors and use that. Like I'm like a professional, we'll call it. So I'm just not a phone guy. I can place wagers, no problem. DraftKings phone, like I like DraftKings and FanDuel's phone app, but for other
Mhm.
sites, I don't like anything else but my monitors and stuff. So that's how I am. I'm probably 90% computers and 10% phone. I'm the opposite. So
Oh yeah, I'm 99% computer. So
yeah.
I just come from growing up using computers, Windows supporting technology. But I also have four monitors, right? I've invested in that for my career, but also leveraging it for this and just being able to, especially when you're doing things like arbitrage, which I was doing during the NBA season, being able to have a game on one screen, just enjoying it, having multiple windows with 5 to 10 different sports books open, along with the tools that you're using to be able to scan. Now, it might be sound complicated, but you don't need to go that level, especially
Mhm.
when you're doing the bonus conversions, right? You really only need one monitor. It doesn't move that quickly. So nothing to scare you guys away, but Chad and I just we've been doing this for a while, and we enjoy it, and we enjoy teaching it, and so we have you know more convoluted setups. All right,
Definitely.
so as far as the tech revolution, so there's a lot of changes happening inside of the industry, uh, particularly with AI, right? AI is providing real-time odds adjustments. So what we're seeing more in the market is personalized bet suggestions. So if you think of like Netflix personalizing what show or TV show to watch, this happening more and more inside of the sports books, right? Where they're personalizing bets for you and stuff like that. If they have your information that you like, certain teams, or you put certain type of action, you can expect to be more personalized bet suggestions. And hey, who do you think is going to score the next touchdown in your Lions game, right? And that kind of stuff. So anything that they can do to entice you to place their bets with you, and obviously that's for some of us that we enjoy that. But what we're teaching inside of the sportsbook economy is to gamble responsibly, right? To be able to uh, leverage math to be able to make profits, right? So, and one of the things that you'll need to, as each of us needs to individually handle is these temptations, if you will, to gamble, right? And these things, AI and promotions, are all meant to pull us in to gamble, right? So always keep that in mind. That if you go into, my opinion, if you go into the gambling system, you're you're primed to lose, right? Because they have that edge that we talked about, that 4 to 8% edge across 50, tens of billions of dollars. And yes, you can get hot, you can run hot, and you might even have your own personal edge in a specific sport or team or so forth. But it is gambling. Gambling is a game of chance. And so when I found this, where it's guaranteed profit because you are covering all the outcomes, it's just a no-brainer for me, and I think it's a no-brainer for a lot of people, right? And so it's a new side hustle income, right? Economy. So, thoughts on AI and the changes that it's making to the sportsbook marketing?
No, yeah, it's a great point. So, if you ever looked at a lawnmower on the internet and Google search, you go on your Facebook, you see lawnmowers for sale, right? Like
Yeah,
that, yeah, they know kind of what you do. And we have people that come to the program that's never experienced betting, and they like arbitrage, or they like what's a same game parlay, right, Chad? And they always see that they target your team favorite, like you said. And it's interesting just because that's their way of enticing you to bet on that, right? And to hit a parlay is a long shot anyways. So I guess there's a smart way to make parlays, like if you get a risk-free bet back or the odds if you're doing some deep diving, right? But
hmm
that's what these sports books are doing. They're just looking at the casual better, and you just rambled off billions of dollars of money. And here, you're taking pennies and pennies and nothing, like small transaction fees from these books when we're making money. But that's a small portion. I always wonder how many bettors out there actually make money versus the numbers DraftKings are posting. And yeah, these sites monitor traders' reviews. They monitor everything you basically do. So if they can make any line they want, and if you're a threat to the book, they'll kick you out or limit you, right? So it just goes to show that they personalize bets for people and how much people pump into there. So it's really interesting. And like in terms of marketing, DraftKings has a TV show that specifically talks about parlays. I'm like, well, we should have a TV show to talk about how to beat these casinos, because number one, you're losing money. If you're a casual bettor and not even doing arbitrage, don't even worry about limits, you're probably a loser, right? If you bet 10 times on a minus 110 line and you win 5 times, you still lost money. You have to win like 55% of your bets to break even or some number like that. So,
hmm
unless you're betting the plus odds and picking off those just like randomly, it is a losing proposition, right? So that's why I'm very curious when they post those numbers, like how big that is. And that's where the states we talked about legislation are like, is this good for our business? Yes, you're going to have more people probably go in debt more to gamble, but that's what we're teaching. Like, use the sports books to make money and don't worry about that, right? So that's kind of trying to get ahead of that curve. So
hmm
um, it's insane how much money in marketing and television they do when it's just people are brainwashed to think, oh, I can hit a parlay and stuff. And I get it. There's ways to make money from that with different value, but just from the average casual bettor, they're bleeding money into those, especially with those parlays coming up. Pick this excellent way. DraftKings knows, right? They didn't put those to you to win. So
Yeah, I recently saw an article about the FanDuel financials and the same game parlays, right? 50 FanDuel reported that 50+% of their NFL handle, so what that's going to be in the billions somewhere. Um, Over 50% of their NFL handle is parlays, right?
mm,
So, if we saw the numbers before that the casinos are making generally between 4 to 8% per dollar, right? And then when you combine these edges, 4 to 8%, and you put it in a 3 game parlay or a 5 game parlay, it's a multiplication thing, and their edge becomes even more, right?
yep.
Yeah, you get a nice hefty payout if you pick 4 or 5 games that are real, big underdogs. You get a nice hefty payout if that wins, but they wouldn't be offering if it wasn't they weren't making a ton of money, right? So
Mhm.
something to keep in mind that 50% of their action, which was surprising to me, was parlays for FanDuel on the NFL side, right? So that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So other things that are kind of going on, there's continue to be evolution and improvement in blockchain and crypto. And so more and more organizations and exchanges and so forth are accepting crypto for the faster payouts, for the transparency. There's heavy adoption of crypto use in the international market. So that's just something that we'll continue to keep an eye on. Now, interesting enough, new technology is being developed for virtual reality, right? So there's early pilots, for example, like with the poker stars, right? So there's going to be like immersive courtside betting experiences, right? So you put on a VR goggle and you're in like a courtside experience to an NBA game, but integrating the betting into it. You know, who's going to get the next basket when, who's going to make the next basket, what player, all of these things that they're going to, leverage virtual reality to do that. What do you think about virtual reality and enhancing betting experience inside of the arenas? If we can get to that point at some point, we've definitely seen the advertisements from the FanDuel's and the DraftKings in there. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that. I've been a bettor my whole life, and there's been stories I've read where people would go to tennis matches and lively see a set point. Guy go over to the computer, calm, put the bet in, right? Quietly on the phone. So talking about that, I'm thinking, okay, there's gonna be a guy in goggles because we know television's delayed, and then someone's gonna be sitting there. But it just goes to show, it's it's insane how much, because people spend money to do that and waste money and just blow it away. And here it's like, okay, you know, if you're a gambler and you're already doing parlays, please just do it smart and get the value out of it, right? So like there's a way to do it and there's a way to have edges, but that's just promoting the casual better. So it's interesting that you would, you know, you see these things like place a wager on the next striker out if there's going to be something like that live, like true live, and like I've always thought there's no way to really arbitrage that, I guess, unless you have two, but because it'd be so fast. But yeah, they're thinking of ways just to get you more money. You know what I'm saying? So it's even
Yeah,
with horse racing before online casinos, gambling's kind of been in everybody's blood, right? So it's kind of strange, and now it's evolving more. And there's ways to take advantage, just like people trade crypto, they buy low, sell high. That's kind of what we're doing. We're just using the inefficiencies of the market and looking for an edge and using promos to grow our bankroll, right? So yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's live betting is another aspect that's blowing up in the industry. The stats show that over 50% of the U.S. wagers are now in play live betting, and a big part of that is actually tennis, like you said, and basketball, because there's a lot of different
Mhm.
activity and points scored and things like that. Slower in a sport like soccer or baseball, but a lot of stuff going on with live betting being over 50% of the U.S. market. Yeah, so let's kind of dive into some of the darker issues, right, in the industry. One of the things that we're increasingly seeing more reports of is athlete harassments, right? We're getting reports in the industry like, that Malik Beasley here in the United States makes, for the Detroit Pistons, do some things where look funky in the court. I don't know if you've seen these videos or not, but Malik Beasley was not guarding certain people, or he was dropped a ball when he needed to hit a three to win the game, that kind of thing, like uncharacteristic things that people are pointing out. And he's being investigated. He got federally charged, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and he's being investigated. And no team in the NBA has re-signed him. They're in the free agents period, and NBA camps are going to be starting up here pretty soon. And yeah, he's still looking for a contract. So, but also there's a NCAA reporting rise of college athletes just being impacted by the shady characters of the industry, and trying to get edges and this and that. And there's a rise in women's basketball hitting hard, especially during March Madness. Right, women's basketball in general doesn't pay a lot. They don't really get a lot for NIL. In the WNBA, they don't get paid as much as well, so they're more susceptible, to this big money, $150 billion market. What do you think about that with athlete harassments and professional athletes, taking on action or doing things that are suspicious, allegedly, right?
Yeah, it's kind of been around the whole, it's been around forever. Everybody thinks someone's Shading points, or the NBA referee that got caught betting on games. You ever heard that story? Same scenario. It's not a player, but I don't know if it was who they were targeting. Not LeBron, probably before his time, but he wouldn't call a foul. Right? There was a tie inside. If you ever watched that story, whether you're a bettor or not, it's pretty. As being a bettor, it's intriguing to hear that. But and then you got athletes that may miss a free throw and people sending death threats. It's terrible, right? There's harassment on both sides because if I missed a game winner or had a bad performance, you hear that side too. So, yeah, some people are, I don't know if they have the athlete in them but some people may be offered a certain amount of money to throw a game. And in college, just like you said, someone could possibly say, yeah, I would take that 250 grand and do that because that's a huge, significant amount of money for someone to win. So that is harassment on both sides. Number one, just being an athlete and missing a free throw to lose a game. You hear it all the time. Kickers get death threats. Is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Right. So that's just absolutely. So there's a lot of bad rap for that too. And that's a mental health thing for them all. Definitely a lot of pressure both ways if you think of it for sure there.
Yeah, and you can see it just coming, the sports betting mindset coming more and more into society. This current season in the WNBA, you have these dildos that are being thrown on the court, right? These objects, and you can take action at certain casinos on how many are going to happen that week, or what color the next object is going to be that's sent out there. And there was if it's a purple one, it might be like plus 100. Somebody puts $1,000 on that. That's what, $100,000. Just then go to the game and throw a purple one, right? So, and there was some rumors that people were doing that. So, yeah, it's definitely, just like anything else in society, anything can be abused, right? Anything can be used for good or for evil, right? And what we're trying to do here is use it for good, right? There's an opportunity to use math, opportunity to take marketing bonuses and turn that into profits. Change your financial freedom, pay your mortgage down, pay for vacations, help supplement your life or help fund your life. If you do it in a responsible way, it's completely doable, right? But you got to be careful with the dark side of it as well, right? The temptations and things that we kind of talk about. So. Yeah. So what's next? So another thing that's kind of going on in the industry is becoming big is esports betting, right? So there's some statistics that are saying that there's going to be $2.8 billion projected revenue for esports betting, right? So, and then there's projected. One site has a $54 billion projection by 2034 in the next 9 years. That's from 3 billion to 54 billion, just continue to grow. So what's your take on esports betting and esports in general, and where this is going in the next few years?
Well, I think the guys that are building business models around esports are in the right business for sure. I think you got to understand limits, like not from just the fact of being limited, but esports has absolutely, I couldn't imagine how close the odds are, right? Probably why there's mixed bag, because you have to know about that. So it's kind of like an underground market in my thought versus sports, data. So they don't know what the average odds may be. Heck, I don't even know what a main market is in esports. I really don't. I know there's maps and stuff. I know that they offer good Rs, but you get limited fairly quickly. But that's a great question. Why would you get limited fairly quickly if there's a rise of bettors, right? I'm just thinking about the market liquidity coming in. And I don't bet esports. I don't encourage it in our line of work because they get limited, right? But for anybody that has information or something like that, that would be valuable. If there is this kind of cash flow coming in, what is the main market and what is a safe bet? Like some max bets on these are $20. Sometimes I can bet 500 each way and arb them, but then I get limited super quickly. But what is liquidity? Because you just said it most. It's a rising. It's going to bring some more. So it's an open to the community. What could you know? But I think it's a great thing. Like Pokemon cards, is it really targeting the younger generation? Is the younger generations betting that much money on e-gaming and pumping it in? I mean, that's what we're reading, but I'd love to know the data behind it with the sport. We can never pull that out, but I don't think those lines are easily matched because not every casino is offering esports. So I think there's a lot in terms of, understanding that market. And I know there's awesome projection models out there. I just don't have enough insight of it, but there's something there. And obviously more younger bettors are betting. So, you
Mhm.
know, interesting for sure. Very, very cool scenario.
Yeah, it's definitely growing. Definitely at the projected, 2.8 billion. That is a big market, but in the grand scheme of things, it's less than 1 or 2% of sports betting. So it's still niche, right? Um, I don't know what the total projected market number is for sports betting in 2034, but 54 billion is probably going to be a bigger chunk than 1 or 2%. So as long as there's 1 or 2%, it's something we that's going to be niche, but we're going to continue to watch and evaluate, and can see that eventually coming into our program. But as you said, right now we don't necessarily uh, recommend esports betting because how niche it is and how you stick out in terms of the bets and so forth and limiting. So, but as you said, the drivers of some of this is the Gen Z and millennial. Uh, generations and the 24/7 tournaments and Twitch and YouTube integration and crypto. These are all things that are driving this space. And there's, some of the top games out there. I'm not a gamer like I was maybe 20 years ago, but I do know of League of Legends and CS2 and Dota 2 and Valorant, some of the key games and so forth. But yeah, and then there's media involvement, right? ESPN Bet and Penn, for example, are we doing the Bleacher Report live odds with esports and with sports books or with sports. There's going to be more and more Barstool integration, and that's a space that I know that here at Sportsbook Economy we're quite interested in, and learning more about. So yeah, so I know we're coming up a little bit over the hour. Great talk today with you, Chad.
Me too.
So really looking forward to the weekend. Some key matchups this weekend. A couple 2-0 matchups, right, in the NFL. So that'll be fun. And our Lions are back on Monday night, I believe, this weekend, right? Over
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens.
Are they
Yeah,
playing Monday night? That's great. Yeah.
yeah. The Ravens whooped our butt last year, so we're hopefully return the favor this coming Monday and
Yeah.
go to a winning record, 2-1. So,
Definitely.
all right, everyone, real quick, if you want to join our, we really do encourage you to do a couple things, actually. Like and subscribe to YouTube channel, follow us on X and Instagram, Sportsbook Academy. Join us in the free school community and the master classes, QR codes above here. The link is right there, sportsbookeconomy.com/join community. We can see you guys in the community. We'll talk about bonus conversions and how you can make $3,000 to $8,000 a month in 30 minutes a day. For SamJak and Chad Gracie, we're from Sportsbook Economy. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on Monday at 12 o'clock. Bye now.
See you, Mike.